Guest, the mayor of Ranson, Ken Suits. Ken, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful to have you, sir. How long have you been the mayor of Ranson?
So just coming up to about 2 months now. I was sworn in on July 1st.
Congratulations. City council prior to that?
Correct, for 3 years. I started that in 2022.
Yeah, move a little closer to your mic if you don't mind there, Ken.
My apologies,
Thank you kindly, yeah. And how long have you been a resident of Ranson?
Since 2004.
What brought you to Ranson, sir?
I moved there from my home in Middleway, close. Well, I mean, my home. It was my family's home. I was probably about 20 years old.
It's kind of a long journey from Middleway all the way to Ranson.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you take a Conestoga wagon?
Pack the bag and set out on foot, come out on the street?
Yes. Hey, it was just, 20 years old. I was starting to work. I decided, hey, time to get out of the house. Let's go get an apartment.
What made you run for city council back then?
Well, I have a close relationship with Councilman Calandria, and at that time he was experiencing some issues with the infamous property as Inferno Brewery right now, and he was demonstrating the fact that a lot of contractors and businesses had issues with the city and that some things needed to change, and I was getting a reputation to just stay away from there. So we got together. There was 4 seats available. There was 4 seats available, and we got together and tried to win them all, and we did. So
yeah, I remember talking to Andy around that time when he was making the decision to run for city council, and he was very specific in regards to the business issues in Ranson at that time. Are you confident that you resolved most of those?
I am confident about that. It's obviously going to be something we have to continuously assess and improve, because business is an ever-evolving industry, and it's going to we're going to have to pay extra attention to it moving forward.
And then you decided to run for mayor.
Yes, that was not much to that story, except for it was kind of cause and effect. A lot of people would come to me expressing a desire for me to do so. Our current mayor was having some issues and was likely going to bow out of the race, and just someone needed to fill the vacuum.
Personal issues or political issues?
He was having health issues.
Okay.
And
that's no fun.
Yeah. So and it's just so someone needed to step up and fill that vacuum, and that's ultimately how I ended up in this.
I think Ranson gets. I go to Ranson a lot. I think Ranson gets a bad rap. I mean, because you hear a lot more about Charlestown, but Ranson has so much to it. Can you just tell us just a couple of the big positives of Ranson? I'm a huge fan of Ranson.
Could you be more specific as far as positives? Are you?
Well, I mean, business growth.
Yes.
The climate for business. The homes.
Okay.
The growth. I mean,
so sadly the homes are a less desirable necessity for bringing in and building a customer base. So that was ultimately part of the reason why some of those things were getting their approvals. It was obviously part of the comprehensive plan, and if people do take notice that most of that growth is hyper centralized around the 9 corridor and the business areas, and it's my belief that the people were coming to the area regardless, and in an effort to reduce the urban sprawl. Ranson has the ability to promote growth with the high density and keep that tight. So, for example, let's say we had a market for 300 people moving to the area. Well, if we had zoning and requirements that said everybody gets an acre of property, then you put 100 houses on 100 acres. And then, so that would require 300 acres to accommodate that, as opposed to if you had tighter zoning, you could accommodate that within the 100 acres. Obviously you don't want buildings just building to just sprawl all over the agricultural properties and just become a logistical nightmare. So that was part of the beginning of that. So now I think it's really important for us to shift focus, and this is what I've been trying to voice with my counterparts, is that all eyes need to be on business and economic growth. The houses have been coming. It's not really growing the tax base like you would want it to. There is a cost associated with bringing on that residential. So ultimately, and that was part of, I think you were going to ask about the Chamber of Commerce event. Part of my goals was to build that business out, right? We need to evaluate some of our tax incentives. Right now our city code chapter 6-50 is going to itemize a lot of those tax incentives. So business and occupation tax credits for facade remediation, business expansion, new businesses. There's also credits for annexed businesses. So that's something that we need to reevaluate and make sure that businesses are being given those opportunities and capitalizing on those tax benefits.
You're just tuning in. Ken Suits is our guest. He is the mayor of the city of Ranson, and he also has a very interesting occupation in his free time here as a person who works at Blue Ridge Community and Technical College. What do you do there?
So I work with workforce development. I got that role as a subject matter expert in our casino dealing, and I started as a teacher and instructor there and grew into taking on delegated responsibilities of recruiting and training the whole casino staff after 2020, which, you know, during the Great Resignation was not an easy task to do, because I had to find these people, sell them on a program that was going to take 6 weeks of their time unpaid, 4 hours a day, at a chance at a job. I couldn't guarantee it. So, but also with that, I work with them very closely to utilize state money to support those job opportunities and get them the funding for that class. And I also, a lot of these people too, they're non-English speaking residents, right? And one thing I've worked with my boss on is, let's bring in someone from the adult ed. And she actually pioneered the effort, but I was a big supporter of it, was English for speakers of other languages, right? Let's provide the resources to try and get them assimilated and help them be successful. And a lot of these people could have been transfers who work in the environmental services or you know, as a janitor in the casino and wanting to improve their quality of life and get a better job. So that's always been a rewarding part of that. Also, we work in partnership with Hollywood Casino for various other trainings. They've done forklift training out there, bartender training. We've done Excel and Outlook training. We do tips trainings. There's also, we've started our tourism certificate program, where I've been working on introduction to tourism and hospitality, principles of customer service, and it's about trying to grow a pipeline of educated workers for the tourism and hospitality
Is
industry.
TIPS an acronym, or is that what I think it is? TIPS.
It is an acronym, but it escapes me as to.
It's not a percentage for service.
No,
Right,
no,
okay,
no,
all right,
no.
all right, all right.
How do you calculate 15, 20,
Exactly,
25%,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's a compliance mechanism for serving alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go back to the elected job. So I just learned that Martinsburg is part of Berkeley County. Is Ranson part of Jefferson County?
As in,
Is when the Jefferson County Commission passes an ordinance, does it also affect Ranson by definition?
absolutely, I could. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, you know, ordinance, city charter, county law, state law.
Okay,
know,
so you work closely with the Jefferson County Commission to get things done?
I don't think it's been as a robust a relationship in history as it should be, and that's something I look to grow.
And what are your priorities there?
Well, economic growth. You know, obviously, there's been a lot of topic about that with Jefferson County right now.
Very much.
So right now, what I hear is there's a lot of friction. I perceive friction between agricultural sort of bucolic growth versus industrial growth, and where do you lie in that? What would you like to see Ranson grow in Ranson? Do you want to have
Tourism.
tourism?
I would love tourism to grow.
And what would they tour?
Well, that's exactly it, right? So, and that's going to go back to one of our most highly sensitive topics since my tenure as a council member was we identified the fact that Ranson does not necessarily have much of a tourism draw, right? In Jefferson County, it's notoriously Harper's Ferry, Charlestown, Shepherdstown, right? Those are the big ones. And we had one of those decisions, I think that was a business-minded decision, and we had our own Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they were collecting the money off of the hotel-motel tax and spending it in accordance with state law. We had determined, and based off discussions with a lot of the businesses and the hotels, that they were expressing a desire to work with the county CVB as an effective DMO, right? And we had looked
DMO.
at their destination management organization.
Okay.
So they had a lot of bona fide data points that supported their success in their outreach, and it looked like they were doing a very good job of promoting Jefferson County. Our own CVB was doing a terrific job as well. We had no issues with the staffing or the performance level, but we did not have the mechanism to quantify its success. So we had moved to dissolve the CVB and reallocate the funding from the hotel and motel tax to the Jefferson County CVB. We thought it would be a better use of that funding, and we thought it would benefit the businesses and the hotels specifically most. But that does not mean I don't want to grow tourism and work with the Jefferson County Commission or Development Authority, whatever we want to refer to, and bring a tourism business to Ranson. That's 100% top of my list right now.
Let me talk about the Jefferson County Development Authority.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the disbanding of the board, and what sort of input does the city of Ranson or the other cities, I mean, are you happy with how the commission is working with you, or is the commission working with you on that at all?
So I can only speak on our interactions with
Right.
the county, right? And we are the only municipality that was awarded municipal representation, and our city manager, Todd Wilt. And it was actually voted president of Jefferson County Development Authority. And we had some communications with the county commission that one of our representatives was inactive and was not participating, and they wanted us to nominate someone, I think as far back as March, and we sent in 2 nominations. So they spoke to our nominations. One of those people did not express a desire to do so, but our city manager was up and more than willing to do it, and so that was how we kept our nomination. So as this situation unfolded, I don't perceive any issue with what they did, because if they are a governing body of a commission and it's underperforming and they're assessing that and they need to do it, I mean, obviously being someone who's taken that type of action with our own CVB, it would relate to me, right? We want this to perform. We want the business to come in.
Perfect.
So I don't personally have an issue with what occurred.
Yeah, I was just wondering what your feelings were on it. I mean, positive or negative.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I'm not a resident of Jefferson County. I'm a resident of Berkeley County. But everything I have heard, the Development Authority brought in nothing over a few years. So I can see why they would want to get rid of the board that oversaw Development Authority that didn't really have any wins. Because at the end of the day, development authorities are about bringing in development, bringing in commercial, adding to your tax base. And if they're not doing it, changes had to be made, and they were.
That's correct. And I understand they had some success in the Burr Industrial Park and Bardeen and some other places like that. But obviously it was not the big ticket type of business that they really wanted as a prime directive. So, yeah, I agree with that statement. I am also someone who is not a fan of infighting.
Right.
Especially, in a situation with business, right? If I'm an investor looking to bring my investment to Jefferson County and I witness what's happening, I'm staying as far away as possible, even if I think it's a wise investment.
Makes sense.
I'm just not going to do it. So, yes, the performance, I think, is the biggest indicator there, but also it's problem solving. If some people had an issue with what the Jefferson County Development Authority was doing, they should really take a look back and okay, first, identifying a problem, you're halfway to solving it, right? And one thing I was doing was reading our city code, right, just for fun. And I stumbled upon our own development authority, something that had been created but idle. It hadn't even been stood up yet. And I'm like, well, this is rather interesting, right? I think this is something that we should review and make sure that we're in full understanding of the structure, adjust it before we implement it, and then use it as a vehicle to create a joint development entity with the Jefferson County Development Authority, right? Even if we had representation or not, right? That's one way you can reach out to them and collaborate. Yes.
Do you have large parcels in Ranson or close to Ranson that you think you may be able to annex that could attract a large business?
Well, annexation has been kind of a hot button topic recently, and I think for the last couple of years. But we do have a large parcel issue. So there was one that was adjoining the Rockwool location. It was Jefferson Orchards, and we had a situation a while back where they were submitting a rezoning application to go to industrial. Well, at that time, our industrial designation was not clearly defined, and it really kind of gave way to what could be heavy industry, and we thought it was important during the development of our comprehensive plan that we address that, and we rewrote the industrial ordinance to reflect a light industrial.
Okay.
Called a special meeting, had that passed before we adopted a comprehensive plan, but the point I'm trying to get at, because it kind of veers, was that property was next to it, Jefferson Orchards, was meant to be residential at that time in the comprehensive plan. And we switched it to large parcel mixed use. Okay. Because the economic change and societal change that warranted it was, I don't think anybody wanted to purchase a home that was right next to a factory like that. So that would be an ideal place. Across the street from that would be a place called Tackley Mill. It's over 300 acres right now as
Yes.
well. It's going to be, it's meant to be residential, but I do think it could be a very warranted commercial or industrial-esque, light industrial location.
So heavy industrial, I mean, basically, because for our listeners, I mean, heavy industrial would be like smokestacks and stuff coming out.
Correct.
Light industrial is manufacturing, but not quite the impact on the environment.
Correct. They're refined materials, right? And so there's no hazardous waste. There's no decomposing or transforming of those materials. It's,
Okay.
you know, that's.
Is Rockwool considered to be in Ranson proper?
Yes, that was part of what was referred to as shoestring annexations of, you know, gosh, almost a decade ago. So yes, it is.
So
Will you-
go ahead.
I said, will you, as the mayor of Ranson, realize any tax dollars from Rockwool's presence?
So yeah, it was part of a pilot agreement. I believe some of those remittances have started to come through as the years have gone. So I think it's starting to look decent, but the taxes for a while wasn't there because of the nature of a pilot agreement, right?
Will you eventually see an amount of tax dollars that could change the budget structure for Ranson? Are the amounts possibly that large?
I don't think it's going to be that large. Our budget has recently grown to an initial budgeting of $10 million. Last year we rounded out around $14 million by the time you factor all of the other revenue increases, property taxes, and construction fees. So construction fees obviously are not sustainable income, so you can't really build the budget off of that.
And when Rockwool's tax dollars reach their full 100% contribution, do you have any idea what that might be annually?
I actually asked my city manager for that figure recently. I have not heard that figure back yet. So I believe the last time I looked at this, it was probably 2 years ago, and I think it was around a 200,000 mark, if I'm recalling correctly. But sometimes, you know, when you're recalling a number, it could be your digits. It could have been 20,000, but
Sure.
I believe it's around $200,000.
And
Now,
that
if
was
we-
still with the lowered amounts that you guys were getting as part of the pilot program.
No, that should be
That's with the full amount.
full
Okay.
amount. Yeah.
With all the catastrophizing proven to be false around Rockwell is turned out to be what it is. With perfect knowledge now of how Rockwell turned out, if that kind of business could be replicated, not specifically, but is that something you would like to see in Ranson and in Jefferson County? Is that the
No.
kind of industry? Why not?
I think the public voiced strong opposition to that. So I think I would have to defer with what our residents and the public would want. And I don't think that that's what the direction they want us to go.
So then, what is left? I mean, if it's sort of a zero environmental impact, and all the fears proved to be wrong. And I'm not an apologist for Rockwell. I don't care. But it's clean. You can't really see it. You know, there's a lot of positives about it.
Yeah.
All the fears proved to be unfounded. So if that's not something that you want to build elsewhere, what's left? What other kind of industry is there?
I've been trying to wrap my head around that too. And I think I've heard things like, at one point in time, there was a potential for a chocolate factory. Right?
Be careful of Charlie.
Yeah. There's also like agricultural. I think there could be, you know, other agribusinesses available that would be, you know, beneficial. But obviously there's the hot button word that everybody hates to hear is data centers, right? Now,
And the power lines that go with them.
exactly.
Those are so ugly.
For years and years, I've been boisterous about the fact that I am not necessarily opposed to data centers, right? As long as they're proffered correctly, because a lot of them have recycling plants on site that recycle their water so they don't consume as much, and if and money is no issue to them. So as long as you articulate what you want from them, they'll typically give it to you. And the tax base, the incremental property tax, is terrific support. It doesn't create as many jobs as you want, but the other issue is with data centers, and the only reason why I can't necessarily get behind it is because the passage of last year's HB 2014, in which the state can kind of override our zoning designations, even though we have it outlined as a possible industry, but also reallocate those incremental property taxes and redistribute it across the state. So I can't get behind a business if we're not going to make any money off of it, right? I mean, 70% of that's going to go to the state, 30% of it's going to go to the county. And based off my understanding of that code and those provisions, 0 goes to the municipality. And how are we supposed to grow our police department? How are we supposed to improve our streets and infrastructure if we're not making any money off of that?
Well, yeah, because you only have so much space for businesses. You want to make sure that the businesses that go into that space, that you can see tax revenue from them.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's the most important component to that. So,
Will you seek to negotiate something, you and the other 4 mayors of the 5 municipalities of Jefferson County, some type of money from the counties as they begin to realize revenues from data centers?
I'm sure I would be able to get some support on that, but we haven't had any conversation to date that would indicate that would be a direction that the other mayors would want to partner with me on. So,
John?
So a strip mall that's anchored by a Dillard's and a big grocery store and a lot of stuff in the middle, is that really profitable for the county and for the
absolutely.
for the town?
Yeah, the property tax revenue is solid, but the sales tax, we have home rule, so we have that 1% municipal sales tax.
So why not focus on that?
That is 100% what I want to focus on. In fact, I think there's a potential for some more of that development coming soon. Obviously nothing's written in stone until it's, until the ink dries, right?
Throw in a few daycare centers.
Exactly, and that's part of what I want to accomplish with our development authority. I want us to get together as a group and identify the industries we want to target. Let's really overload the incentives, and let's use a map, create almost an economic comprehensive plan, and as indicating, let's market them to the industries of our choice. Let's send out that information, invite them to invest in Ranson. Daycare is family oriented. Like right now, making sure businesses understand what our business and occupancy rate is. Like we have an amusement rate for an amusement park or bowling alley, radio as well, which is 0.5% of gross profit, right? I mean, we need to assess it, make sure it's competitive, but also advertise it, get that word out, and target those industries, because I'd love to see more family-friendly entertainment, childcare services, and tourism, professional services. Those are my main goals.
When is your next council meeting?
Tuesday, September 2nd.
Day after Labor Day.
Yes.
Very good. Great to meet you, Ken. Thanks so much for coming in.
Great to meet you as well. Thank you for having me. You guys have been a pleasure. I'd be happy to speak any other time in the future.
I hope we can have you back on a relatively regular basis.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep up to speed with what's going on with Ranson and Mayor Ken Suits.